Good morning. It's good that we're talking about teamwork today because I was like, Zeb, is there putty on this? You gotta wipe it off. He's like, don't touch it, it's not dry.
That's all right. Now we just get to practice some more doing putty work.
Hey, practice makes perfect. When you come on, let us know you're here, where you're from. That's a good thing for us, but also a good thing for you guys that are channel members to let you, sorry, I'm gonna push this back a little, to let you guys get to know each other. And if you guys find that you've got other channel members that are like close to you, it might be a good resource for teamwork, which is what we're talking about today. So let us know where you're from and when you're here on. And if you're watching the replays, you know, if you don't mind sharing where you're from in the replay, that'd be great because you guys are a good resource to each other. We try to help out as much as possible, but I find that there's so much more knowledge as you expand and create a network of creative entrepreneurs or just DIYers that love to do it. So I'm going to take over comments.
Well, and you get friends that can share your posts, and if you see something you love, you're like, hey, this is my friend that did this, and you share their stuff, and it just, the more you share on social media, the better off everybody is.
Zeb's going to be painting because in teamwork today, sorry, I'm so like...
We have a ton of smalls in the garage that it just, you know, they build up on us because we go shopping so much so we can do our live videos. And sometimes they sell and sometimes they don't, but mostly we just don't get to them.
Yeah, and my arms are all noodly. I took a later workout class than I normally do, and so I told him that I would handle comments, and he's going to paint, and we're going to talk to you guys about teamwork. I'm going to respond to what you guys have to say. So if you guys in the comments would ask your questions about teamwork, that will help the flow of this live video because I don't want to just talk at you. I want like a two-way conversation because I feel like we are all a team, right? Like the Jamie Ray Vintage channel membership, we are all a team. So The best way to work with you is you guys comment, ask some questions. We'll be candid and give you some honest answers about working with your spouse, which is kind of a unique working situation. But some of you guys have co-workers that you work with, a friend, or maybe you're adding somebody on.
Family members, a brother, a sister, a kid that you're working with.
Yeah, so we have, Caitlin is my niece, and she's my customer care manager. She also handles the website. She's training my new shipping assistant. I would say Zeb and I are equals as far as like what we do in the business, and Caitlin is just underneath us as far as that goes, like in our tier of business.
We've given her a lot of responsibility as she's come
We
on board.
don't give her a ton of direction. So I think with teamwork, it's important to communicate, but you have to have somebody that you don't have to have a ton of direction, because if you're constantly having to tell somebody what to do, then you could just be doing it yourself. So if you communicate freely and always say exactly what you mean, it will allow you to have a better working relationship. Zeb and I do not worry about sugarcoating things. We're nice to each other. We're nice to each other, but we don't sugarcoat things. Tammy Beamy says, my spouse is reluctant.
Reluctant. Okay, so I was reluctant.
Really?
I did, well, when she first started painting furniture, let's go back like on a serious level where she was selling it. Let's go back about 10, 12 years here. I was like, what are you doing and why is that stuff in the garage? I was that husband. You know, I was going to my job every day, coming home, and just didn't see the vision for all the painted stuff. Personally, you know, we paint all this furniture. I like a good, heavy, dark piece of furniture with a bunch of leather on it.
True that. True that. It's probably where we have a dark gray section in the basement. But one of the things that brought him onto like the paint side or the dark side or the light side in our case, because we're farmhouse, but is money. So he was interested in helping me once he saw that there was money to be made. I think sometimes getting a partner or a spouse interested is showing them it's actual business. Because how many of you guys by raise of hands have people,
Jack's kicking the camera and you can't even see his hand. Jack, if you want to be on camera, you got to come back over here.
And then you got to leave because we're training right now. We're training with our team. So come here. Come here.
Summertime.
All right, now go. I love you. Hey, no, we're not eating. You've already been fed breakfast. I fed you before I went to the gym. Goodbye.
It's like he waits until we've been live for 5 minutes. I lost reception. Okay, we're back. Looks like we're back.
Still streaming on this end.
Yeah, it'll stream up for a minute.
All right. Good. We're back. Sorry. What What was I talking about? Oh, so by show of hands, how many of you guys have people in your life that don't take your business seriously? Like, oh, it's just a hobby, or it's not going to really generate income or revenue. And the reality is, you can absolutely make money in this business. When you first get started, your business is going to be making money, flipping, whatever, if you're in a creative business or creating stuff. So you always have to make sure that profit margin is there, so that way you're actually generating a revenue. And that's where keeping control of your inventory, we talked about that in our last live video, is really important, so you're not buying more than you're selling. So one, you got to prove to whoever it is that you want to bring onto your team that it really does make money. Sometimes you have to like write it down. In Zeb's case, I think he just saw the increase in deposits in the checking account, and it really did. When I first started, I wanted to pay for dance for my girls and just have some. I wanted to pay for dance for my girls and just have some extra things for my kids, because I already had like.
We wanted lagoon passes.
Yeah, we wanted lagoon passes. I already had a job. I did daycare and simultaneously did pre-underwriting and disclosures for a mortgage industry from home. So I already had like a main source of income, so this was all extra. So that helped. Another thing is you have to take it seriously. So we've already done the video on how to get all your social media lined up with your picture, all your contact information, just very professional. Doesn't mean you can't have fun, but treat it like a job. And as they see that income coming in, that's when you're going to be able to convince them to come on. Because I think that's what happened with you, right?
Yeah, well, so a lot of times, whoever is the one dragging their feet in the partnership, or if you're on your own, we'll get to that in a minute. But for me, I was like, oh, this is just a lot of extra work. I wasn't seeing the benefit right away from it. But as she got busier and busier doing stuff and finding better deals and things like that, I could see that we were actually generating a pretty decent little income. And, you know, work is work sometimes, whether you love it or not. I didn't love my job at the time, but I still went every day. And I could see that this was helping our family and bringing in more income. So I started to get a little bit excited about it. I'm like, really? We can go down to the thrift store, grab some junk, turn it around, sell it on Facebook or at a market, and make X amount of dollars. And then we rinse and repeat and keep doing that over and over. So, you know, it took a while, but once initially it was the money that got me going. And for a lot of guys, that's going to be the case. A lot of husbands, a lot of significant others, you're going to have to show them the money, and then they'll learn to love it.
Yeah, so sometimes you have to get a little scrappy, you know, when you're first starting out, to kind of show them that. So the other thing with teamwork is, I feel like having a plan. So it depends on where you're at, but have like regular meetings. Zeb and I are together like 24 hours a day, but every now and then we will say, okay, let's have an hour, and we'll sit down. We have our book. If you guys watched, we made a video towards the beginning of the year. We made a planner, and in the planner there's like goals and things. In fact, we have it over here. We're going to show you in a little bit. You guys are going to get a sneak peek of the plans for the new house. But we made this book, and we put our goals and calendar and everything. So it's important to be synced on that. I also would suggest figuring out a way to sync your cell phone calendars. So Zeb and I always invite each other to events that we're scheduling in our phone.
Dentist appointments, whatever
Everything.
It is.
Because that way there's never any double scheduling. That can be really important, because if you guys have conflicting schedules, then you're going to wind up fighting over whose thing is more important. So if you know from the beginning, that's really important. So, all right. Let's see, what else? You take.
So some of the best teams that I've seen, there's a bunch of TV shows out there, but just even in doing markets and being kind of in the flipping world here in Utah, some of the best teams are brother and sister, or sister and sister, or you know, so like if you've got family that's close, or a cousin, or sister-in-law, whoever it is, if you don't have a husband or a spouse or someone that wants to get on board with you, you got to find that person, because at the end of the day, you just can't move pianos by yourself, or big pieces of furniture, or whatever it is. It's hard to set up a booth at a market by yourself. You need to find that person that loves it as much as you do, and maybe they don't have to love it as much as you do at first, but you know, you invite them on, even if it's a close friend, you know, give them a little piece of the pie. If they come and help you, give them a little kickback for that. Let them see the benefit of it. They'll get excited. Pretty soon you'll have like this whole thing going. I mean, the IOD sisters, Josie and Sally. I mean, it doesn't have to be husband and wife like we've got. You can find a relationship and build on that and create a business and a company with someone other than your spouse. It doesn't have to be that way.
If you don't know who Josie and Sally are, they own IOD, so they make the stamps and transfers that we use. And interestingly enough, Sally's husband is a pastor, but Josie's husband does work with them, and he handles a lot of the logistic situations. And then they have a daughter that works for them. And so if you can reach within your own network of people, that's always better. I actually just hired my first non-person that I already knew employee, and Caitlin is training her. Her name is Ivy. She's amazing. I think she's going to do super good at helping us ship. My current shipping girl is
she's
graduating from hair school, and she just graduated from high school, and she's moving up to Idaho to be with her family. And so, but I already knew her. I'd worked with her for a year at Molly's, so it was like a complete easy transition. So when you're first starting out, if you can find somebody that is close to you that you're comfortable with, that might make it well. Those make it better. Sorry, my brain is fluffy.
So here's the network situation of friends. So Ivy that we just hired, she knows Caitlin. Caitlin knew her. So we already had like an element of trust there because, you know, Caitlin recommended her. We trust Caitlin. So when we interviewed her, it felt really good. And now we're training her and we're like, oh yeah, she's going to be great.
Yeah, so. She's super sweet. In fact, so if you work for me, we work from home. In the evenings we eat dinner. I always feed whoever happens to be here at dinner, and she was here, and I'd ordered extra pizza, and she didn't want to eat, and I was like, no, that's part of team building, like treating them well. And I would never want somebody to be over here working and smelling us eat and not be invited to eat. Now, if they don't want to, that's one thing. But if they're here, I want them to feel like family. In fact, Caitlin Jr. is what we used to call her. So there's Caitlin Sr. She's not the one that graduated. She's the one that's staying here. She's my niece. Caitlin Jr. was my shipper. Sometimes she would eat like a bowl of cereal or leftovers because she would come straight from hair school to here, and I always wanted her not to be hungry because employees or whatever are always best if they're not tired and they're not hungry. So you gotta take care of those needs. Ampersand Unique Gift says, my husband will normally help when I ask, but he makes it a point to remind me it's not his hobby to repurpose items and flipping furniture, LOL. There's a little give and take. So when you do get help from your significant other, friend, or whatever, then you have to reciprocate in a way that, you know, something that's important to them. So it's like a little give and take. I would sometimes make Zeb's favorite food or whatever.
She could always get me with my favorite food.
So, Jennifer Witten says her husband and her constantly argue over pricing. There is another thing that's important about teamwork is certain people are over certain things. There are areas that will overlap, meaning Zeb and I can both paint stuff and I can repair some stuff, but I handle like pricing and design work, a lot of behind the scenes. In fact, many videos where you see a lot more Zeb than me, I'm behind the scenes handling logistics and the website and shipping and things like that while he's working on projects, because I'm over, even though I don't physically do all the shipping, there's many times if we get behind, I have to schedule time to get in that office and ship. So there's things that he's over and things that I'm over and things we do together. I think pricing is one of those things that if you're more in the market and you know what things are selling for, then that's maybe something you need to say, you know what, let me take it over for a while and see how I do. And then revisit it in 30 days, 60 days, and see if maybe there needs to be a job switch. Because there's things that initially Zeb was in charge of, and then I took over, and vice versa, I was in charge of, and he took over, because it just made more sense. We realized he was much better at responding to YouTube comments. So that is something that mainly he does. I do get on there every now and then and like poke my 2 cents in there. And I'm better at responding to the other social media, so that's what I do. But that doesn't mean that he can't come in and do it. It just means that like it's my main responsibility.
So if you haven't had a chance to, in a couple posts back in community is the new chapter, and it is all about teamwork and splitting up responsibilities and how we resolve arguments and we'll say disagreements. Arguments is a strong term. We don't really
argue sometimes.
We do argue, but we don't like get into it.
No, and it's not something that lasts. And I also feel like we're going to be talking in a little bit about the 4 agreements. It's a book. So it talks a little, it's a little bit, some people are like, oh, it talks against religion. It really doesn't, because you guys know that I'm religious, but the preface to it and the basis of the 4 agreements are something I feel like is really important. So we're going to talk about this in a little bit, because coping skills and managing skills and learning how to work with other people and knowing yourself is super important, and these help with that. So we're going to talk about that probably when we hit the 30-minute mark. We'll like transition into going over the 4 agreements, and you might want to pick up a copy at Amazon. So if you guys have continued questions, go ahead and keep asking them, so that way we can make sure to get them covered in there. Let's see. For us, it's important that we stay fed.
Yes.
Both of us get hangry.
If you got low blood sugar, it's never a good time to talk about budget or how to price things or what you should buy tool-wise.
And Zeb and I are never afraid to say to the other person, I'm super tired, I'm very hungry, let's not talk about this right now. And I'm sorry for the things I say until I remedy those things. Because, and we're totally honest, like Zeb will be like, you know what, I can't talk right now. I'm like super angry, hungry, or I just hurt myself in the garage, or whatever it is. It's better to say that than you have let the other person know. Otherwise, they just think you're being a jerk.
Yeah.
You know? And you never want that. You especially when you have to also be married. It's a little bit different when it's like your girlfriend or your employee.
If they go home to somewhere else.
Yeah, and Caitlin and I in text message, we text a lot. Sometimes things get lost in translation. And I have a few times been like, I'm sorry, I'm just having a really rough day. So if that came off such and such way, you know, the kids have been screaming. She has 2 little boys, so sometimes her kids are driving her insane. And so she's a little short with me. And, you know, it's always good to cut some people a little bit of grace. So that's really important. Pam Clayton says, that makes good sense to revisit your job descriptions after a few weeks or a few months to see who does it better. Yeah, and be kind when you're saying that you could do it better. And it's funny because sometimes we switch jobs and we're like, oh, you're doing better than I thought, because that was really hard.
Yeah. Well, and you know, sometimes when you work with someone, there becomes kind of a, well, I'm doing more work than you, you're slacking. Why can't you get off your butt and come help me right now? Like, what did you do today? You got to be careful not to put that on other people, because when you go out there on a limb and you're trusting someone to partner up with them and to work with them on a daily basis, you have to trust that they're going to give it everything. And if you've been doing it for 3, 4, 5 months and you realize, hey, I'm doing 80% of the work and it's not working out, then you gotta address that and maybe go find someone else that can help you, or bring a third party in that helps someone else realize, you know, you gotta mediate the situation. You gotta own your business and manage that responsibly.
Well, there's times when I just shouldn't be doing anything, you know, like it's just the way that it is. Like I have to.
If it gets past like 10 o'clock at night,
yeah,
Jamie's good for sitting on the couch.
I'm a morning person, and Zeb's a late night person. So that actually works together when we have a deadline, because I'll like, you know, wake up early and do stuff, then we'll work together all day, and then he'll finish it at night. I was gonna say something else and I can't remember what it was, but it'll come back to me. So maybe talk for a minute and then I'll remember.
All right. So one of the other things that really helps us is you have to learn how to let things go. You can't get so married to an idea that it's going to jeopardize your relationship with the other person. At the end of the day, it's just furniture, it's just a can of paint. Sometimes the paint gets spilled, sometimes things get broken, sometimes hutches get dropped out of the back of the truck. It happens. You're gonna have accidents.
Did I drop it or did you drop it?
I don't think I've ever dropped anything.
You almost dropped a hutch the other day. I was like, I got too strong since I've been working out. I lifted that hutch up. You're like, I wasn't ready. Had it up in the air. I was going to say, you also have to be able to receive criticism. There are times that either one of us has called the other one out and said, I'm just being honest. You know, this needs to happen. Or like, maybe I don't like,
Usually when I design woodworking on my own, she's like, that doesn't work at all. We can't sell that. What is that?
Yeah, I'm not, well, very often I say I'm not putting that in my space, and that is why it's Jamie Ray Vintage. But likewise, sometimes I'm a little bit of a princess, so sometimes I get a little, you know, I'll like have a few days where I'm going to get a pedicure and I'm off with my girlfriends, and sometimes they will be like, look, I've been here working and I need you to help. And the reality is, yeah, I have to check myself and be like, okay, retract, let me go back and work a little bit harder. Or Zeb will be some new video game or movies coming out and he'll get distracted. He likes to do Marco Polo with his friends and his
My
brother.
current distraction is houseplants. I can't stop looking at stuff.
Yeah, so he gets a little bit one track and I'll have to reel him back and be like, no, you need to stop what you're doing and we need to focus. And we do it equally. I feel like there's equal things and you have to care enough about the person that you're working with that you can allow them to call you back, because none of us are perfect. Like, we all make mistakes. So if you don't realize that, that might make it a little bit difficult to be honest. You have to be honest and let other people be honest with you. So Talisha says, I asked my husband to help me and then he throws in all his opinions to things the hard way. Yet I have spent many hours, many videos, many months, so much of my time, trial and errors. So I think that that's where being honest definitely comes in, and you can just say, I mean, I obviously don't know your situation, but I don't think it would be out of line to say, I understand where you're coming from, but I like to learn from the mistakes of other people instead of making them myself. And I've done a lot of research on this, and I truly feel, you know, if we do it this way, it will be better. And if when we're completed, I'm wrong, then I'm willing to look at it and revisit it, you know, on the next project.
Then you can call me out and we can talk.
When we screw it up, then you call me out and we'll go from there. And maybe the way you would word that would be different because everybody knows their spouse. But I don't think there's anything wrong with definitely putting that out there, but not doing it without like over emotion. Because sometimes we get so angry like that person is trying to hurt us, when in reality, they have their own reality and we have our own reality. So they're not realizing like the way they're putting it off on us. How do you handle a slow month in your booth? I'm full and don't know what to do now. So there's a few things that we do. This isn't really what the video is like about, but this is really good because we've had some slow times. I do a sale and I'll clear out old stuff. That's why buying low is really important, because you want to leave enough profit in there that you can mark it down if you need to. You need to advertise that sale through live videos, stories, pictures, yard sale groups, however it is that you advertise your space. And then reorganize. And there's nothing wrong with taking things that you have at home and finishing them and swapping it out. Meaning, like, I have a piece right now that if it doesn't sell in the next month, I plan on just pulling it out instead of buying new pieces, paint something I have and swapping it and then keeping it here and either repainting it or throwing it in at a later date. Because sometimes it's all about just making it look new and fresh and coming up with a new configuration. If you just leave it sit there and you don't do anything, chances are that you're not going to have any different results. So be willing and flexible. It may be a little bit more effort, but you might need to change things up a little bit and then just keep at it. And if that doesn't work, then change it again.
So let's talk about roles for just a second. One of Jamie's main things she does is she checks out Facebook Marketplace, the yard sale pages, things like that. She finds the pieces that she thinks will sell because she has a better pulse on what's selling in our area and what pricing is. So she knows when it's a good deal or when it's not. And she also will come to me, let's say like yesterday, for example, there was a buffet for $50 and it was in pieces, like someone had taken every piece apart, but you could kind of see like the main frame of it still. And she's like, hey, can you fix this? I said, yes, I can. At $50, it would have been a good deal, but she also knew that it was going to take me 4 or 5 hours to put that back together. And that's time. You have to account for that. You have to pay yourself. So 4 or 5 hours cost X amount of money to essentially fix that. So she went back to the person selling it. She's like, hey, can I get this for 25? Because if it takes me, I mean, I might not even get to it for a month or two, you know? And we'd just be storing it. And they said no. So we just walked away, you know, whatever.
And that's okay. Like, the seller definitely had the right to say that, but I knew that if I paid the $50 for it, that if I did have to mark it down, that it just wouldn't be profitable for me. And even now, where the majority of our income is now like online revenue and YouTube videos and this membership group, and flipping is a secondary income, I still want to make sure that my profit margins are right on. Because if I'm going to tell you guys, these are the things you need to do to make money in the industry, it would be very hypocritical of me to be paying too much money for things just because I want them and they would make a good video. So I'm always watching that bottom line. June, you guys, just so you know, June is typically slow across the board. It doesn't mean that it has to be. It just means you got to get scrappy. So Zev and I went in our space yesterday. We rearranged some things. We made it look good. We're going to be painting a lot the next few days because the market's coming up on Saturday, and I don't want to miss that opportunity to snag some new customers and buyers. So when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. If you're, and you know, we've been a little bit slow on the website, which freaks me out because we're trying to buy a house. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm promoting the website a little more. We're actually doing a paint giveaway, which is a sneaky way of promoting the website. Don't tell anybody, shh. But we're doing a paint giveaway in the Jamie Ray Vintage group. And I announced it on community for everybody. And that helps get people excited. And when people are talking about the products they like, then somebody's like, oh, maybe I want to buy this. And it helps. It's not been a great improvement, but I did see when I did that an immediate like little upswing in sales on our website. So when you get slow, sometimes you just have to work a little bit harder and change things, because when business is good, sometimes we just kind of sit back, you know?
Like, oh, this is how it's going to be all the time.
Yeah. So you have to be willing to kind of change things up and think outside the box and think, how can I bring more business in, and what can I do that I'm not already doing? If that doesn't work, try something else.
So in the world of furniture flipping, I like to refer to June as the December of furniture flipping, because December people are doing Christmas and holidays and it gets slow and they're doing a lot of traveling. Same thing in June. Everybody just got out of school. They're at Disneyland with their kids. They just spent $2,000 on that trip to the beach with their whole family.
They're paying for the vacation even if they haven't taken it yet. They booked that vacation.
Yeah, so June tends to be slower. The same thing happens when it gets to be like back to school at the end of summer.
Yeah.
So just, you got to weather the storm and just hang in there, keep doing what you do and plugging away, and it'll come back around.
All right, so I know you guys have more questions, and maybe we'll do a whole nother video on things to do to help move things along. I can say that the way I know what's selling is I'm in a lot of yard sale groups, like buy, sell, trade, local yard sale groups, and I will pay attention to the posts that get the most interaction and comments and interest within the least amount of time frame. Like somebody just posted it, and there's lots of people saying, I'm interested, I want it, blah, 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 and I'll be like, okay, that's a hot item, and I just put it up in the old memory. And I just pay attention. It all gets logged, and hopefully it doesn't fall off the conveyor belt of my brain. And I have a very like analytical, would you say I have like a breakdown? Like I'm always constantly figuring things out. So because I'm constantly looking at those things, I'm just logging it away. And then I'm like, okay, I've seen a lot of hutches that are beautiful and nobody's commenting on them. But nightstands, people can't get them fast enough. So then I start doing that. And if nightstands get slow, I pay attention, okay, well maybe now buffets are selling or dining tables or whatever. You just pay attention to how quickly people are commenting on other people's posts and what does the stuff look like. And that's how I know what's trending in my area.
Like if it gets slow enough, I might have to go to building some farm tables real quick for a quick buck, you know? That's something you can resort to. Don't be afraid to switch it back up. Let's say we've eliminated some things in our business, but we could always go back to those if we need to, because they're the proven things that we know will make money.
So we're going to talk, we're in the second half of this live video, so we're going to talk about the 4 agreements. It's based off of Toltec wisdom. We'll just say Toltec wisdom. And the chapters go into, they talk about how everybody's in their own dream and their own reality. So every person has their own world that they're living in, and sometimes that world doesn't necessarily correspond to yours. And then there's a bunch of agreements that help you navigate that and get the most out of your world. So the first agreement is being impeccable with your word. We talked about this a little bit, but I want to go over it a little bit more. And I'll be honest, I've only read this book one time, and I need to read it like 8 times. But you can pick it up on Amazon, and it's one of those books that you're going to read, and then you're going to come back in 6 months and read it again. Anywho's, okay, so being impeccable with your word. This one is probably the hardest thing to honor, but what you say is very, very powerful, and how you say it is really powerful. Your word is a gift that comes directly from God, right? Like animals have ways to communicate, but we are the only being that actually uses verbiage to communicate. And people don't realize that you can totally change things around by the way things, And when we say things with too much emotion, especially when we're upset, we say words that we can't take back. If you're going to spit it out, you need to make sure that you're happy with what's coming out. If there's actually an analogy where there's a fence and you hammer a bunch of nails in it, and you can pull those nails out, but at the end of the day, you're left with a fence full of holes. So even though you can try to take those nails out or those words back, the holes are still there that you create. So make sure that when you're speaking, that you're saying what you actually mean. And this is something that's hard for me because I don't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation at all. I avoid it at all costs. But if somebody's being rude to you or mean to you, it is actually, there's actually no reason that you shouldn't be able, like, as you get bigger on social media, people will say things that are absolutely out of line. You can come back at them and give them a ration of crap and fight with them, or you can just say, were you trying to hurt my feelings? Because that's what happened. That's being impeccable with your word because that's exactly how you feel. Or somebody will say, I never do that, blah, 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 and my husband has responded with, well, we made money on this and this is what we do for a living, so we're going to keep doing it. Maybe this isn't the channel for you. Are we being rude? No, we're just saying exactly what we mean.
Well, especially on social media, it's hard sometimes because it's hard to get a lot of context and the tone of someone's voice in a comment. So you can't just like read something and automatically be offended. You got to get a little bit of a thick skin. And it's the same face to face. Some people don't realize that they're being offensive about your work. If you're at a market and they're over there talking about it and you hear them, you got to just be like, you know what? It's not their style. Move on and let them move on too. And not get super offended by what they say, but at the same time, keep doing what you do. Hold your ground and don't let what they have said change what you're doing.
The other thing is that don't gossip. Because sometimes people's perceptions of themselves are completely created with the things that people say about them and not what they really are. It says in the book, and I like this, it says, we have learned to lie as a habit of our communication with others and more importantly with ourselves. So not just impeccable with the words that we tell other people, but with the words that we use about ourselves. If you're telling yourself, I'm not good at painting, I'm not good enough, I'm not creative, I'm not, I'm overweight, I'm not attractive, or whatever it is, all the lies we tell ourselves, the reality is that we are all capable of doing anything that we want to do. Now I'm not going to be an Olympic athlete, but Pam made a comment and I'm going to go back from there. She said, Jamie, you're losing weight. I can see it in your face. So I have never worked out in my life. Zeb can attest to that. Even when we were young and in high school on the tennis team, I did not work out. Not to like any extent where I was going to perspire. I was just thin when I was younger, so I just never worried about it. Fast forward 5 kids, still never worked out. Periodically through our life, I have tried to like go walking or go on a diet or whatever, but never really done anything. But I went to Orange Theory just over a month ago with Debbie, and I hated it. I was like, this is awful. But then when I got back, I was like, oh, I dropped 2 pounds just by, eating better while I was with Debbie and then working out. I'm like, you know what? Let me try this out. So I did it for a month. And the whole time I kept telling myself, you know what, Jamie? You can do this. You have the physicality and the ability to do this. You can do it. And there's been a few times that would call me a girl and tease me for it, but I have actually cried after a workout, not because I was upset, but because I was so proud of myself that I was able to do it. Today, I ran a half a mile at 6 miles per hour without stopping. Zeb can absolutely.
I don't think I've ever called you out on like you're working out.
No, but on being a girl, I'm crying.
Oh, being emotional about weird things, yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay, I know that. But anyways, this morning but my point is, I told myself you can do this, and while I'm doing it, not that everybody has to work out, because you know what? There is a season in everybody's life for everything. And I totally believe in that. But I feel like this is my season. I have the money to afford it finally to join Orange Theory. And I have a little bit extra time. I do sacrifice sleep. Mostly I go to the 6 a.m. class. And I'm not pregnant or nursing or any of those things. So it's a really good time. But how it started was me telling myself I could. So that is the same way with your business. You have to be impeccable with your word. If you want to do things, you have to say them and put it out in the universe. And it is darn scary to say things that you're not even sure you believe at the time, but that you want to happen. And you say it, and then you do it. And then if it doesn't happen, you have to be okay with the fact that it's not going to happen. But you say what you mean. So, anyways, I feel that way. And I'm one of those people who's like, I'm a sprinter. I'm not a marathon, but business is a marathon. And that's why having a team is so important, because when you're ready to give up, then you've got that other person or persons that you can turn to and say, today was hard. I don't want to do this anymore. I remember when the last custom table Zeb ever built.
Ooh, it was a doozy.
Yeah, why don't you tell them about that? Because I feel like that is a good situation that we had that really like tested us, but you were a little bit vulnerable with that.
So we were on the verge of stopping custom tables. I had 4 on the books that we'd already had deposits for, but we were getting busy enough with YouTube and the website and making videos that we were like, okay, we feel comfortable not doing custom tables anymore, because custom tables are great, they're good money makers, but they also come with a myriad of things like wood seasoning and other different things, like a warp table, finishes coming off. And we would warranty all that stuff occasionally if it happened. For the most part, everything was great, but at the same time, we're like, wow, if we can drop this out of our schedule, we will. So I had 4 tables left, and the last table I was working on was probably the biggest and most expensive table I had ever done. I had custom ordered the wood up. It was white oak. It got here, it had like some wormholes and beetle holes and things in it, but I'm like, you know what? That's just gonna add to the character. I okayed it with the customer, and I started building the table. Got it all together. Took me about 2 weeks to build, which is a long time. Usually I can build a farm table in about 3 or 4 days.
But there were benches too.
Yeah,
it was massive. Like the legs were like
big, huge legs on it, and the benches matched.
And he turned the legs.
Yeah, I hand turned everything.
About broke our leg. It was like, ooh.
Yeah, it was heavy wood. So anyway, I get it all put together and all done. The finish is great. She loves it, and get it up to her house. And what was it? Maybe like 3 or 4 days later, she's like, "Hey, there's sawdust on my floor, and I found this weird little bug in my kitchen." And she showed me the hole in the bottom of the table. The wood still had the bugs. It had not been dried properly.
She's like, it's Halloween, but this is a little much.
Yeah, it had not been dried properly. She lives an hour away, so I'm like hustling back up to go get the
and
table.
She had paid a good amount of money. Like she had every right to expect it.
Straight up, we built the table and benches for $37.50 was the total on the table and the benches. It was a 10-foot by like 40-inch huge table with legs
cost her
like this big around.
$10,000 if she were to purchase it from like a cabinet shop.
Yeah, so she had paid a decent chunk of change, and I was like, well, let me come up there. We're going to make this right. So I come up there, I look at it. We decide that I need to replace the whole tabletop. So I take the table back, and it's right before Thanksgiving. So I have a deadline to get this done. So that was the whole plan, so that she could have it for this huge Thanksgiving dinner she was having at her house with her family. She was hosting Thanksgiving dinner that year. And so I get it back, I'm hustling, I sourced wood from a different source that was local. It was a little different type of wood. It was alder, not white oak, but the stain matched the rest of the benches really well. So we get it back, we get it fixed. Took me about another week to get the top back on the table and get it back up to her. And she loves it. She was super nice through the whole process.
She tried to get us to do more work for her.
Yeah.
And there was actually multiple trips up there. Like more things happened with them than we had.
Well, the benches ended up having the same problem with the tops.
It was an absolute nightmare. We had to pay. I mean, we wound up making $0, but it took about, I don't know, it's about a month, start to finish from when we started the project. And Zeb was so hard.
I was grumpy. I was not happy because I was redoing the work. We'd lost the money, and I was out time I could have been doing other projects.
Zeb was impeccable with his word, meaning he took care of the customer. He told her exactly what he was going to do and exactly what he meant. He didn't let his emotions get the better of him, and he wasn't rude to them. And he also was honest with me and said, I am so upset about this. I've got to get this finished and done right so that way I can go back to normal living. And I allowed him that space because he told me exactly what he needed, and he wasn't rude about it. He didn't scream at me. He may have raised his voice a few times, but he was just really upset. And I gave him that grace because that's something that he needed. So we're gonna go, Eliza, I'm not talking right now unless it's emergency. Sorry, Eliza just walked in. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the second agreement. Don't take anything personally. This is hard. And you never get these agreements like right, you know? But we talked earlier about how people have things, they live in their own reality. When I was growing up, my mom used to always say, consider the source. So there's very few people in this world that can say anything that's really gonna bother me because I don't really care what they think. And that's the way I was raised, so I'm pretty good at it. But this social media journey has been crazy. Like, somebody texted Caitlin the other day, and it really bothered me. She texted Caitlin and she said, she thought it was me, because she didn't know it was Caitlin's number. If you can't get your shipping under control, then you shouldn't be searching for a house. But the reality is that she was probably just upset because she had a project and she hadn't contacted us and said, hey, I need better shipping time, because it's everywhere on our website. It says it will ship, like leave here, within 10 business days. Most of the time it's shorter than that. But on occasion, if life happens or my shipper's gone, or like right now there's like a couple colors that are on back order where we have stock, but we've shipped out, so we're waiting for more to come. It will take a little bit longer. So we give ourselves that 10 business days. And it really upset Caitlin because she's like, you know what? You should absolutely be able to have a life and shop for a house. And the reality is it hasn't even taken up that much time.
We shopped for a house
We
for a
went to
total of
look
like
for
3
one
hours.
I think we spent 20 minutes there, including filming.
Yeah, maybe half an hour.
And we probably spent maybe another hour on dealing with paperwork. So it's not like it's taken up our whole life. But instead of ripping her a new one and being like, listen here, lady, blah, 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 Caitlin didn't take it personal. I didn't take it personal. We said, we're sorry you feel that way. We'll get back to you. And then Monday, I went through and I went to the shop because I have inventory there, and I was able to pull, one of the items we were waiting for was a sample in a certain color. I pulled a pint, and rather than saying, here lady, blah, 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 I just packaged it up. She's gonna get a pint instead of a sample, and I sent it off to her because I didn't take it personal. People are rude, but maybe not intentionally, and maybe they have a whole nother backstory going on. That is their reality. When they're telling you things, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them.
Well, on the flip side of that, we don't know what's going on with her. She may have ordered the paint because she had already purchased from us and ran out and needed to finish a project and was under her own deadline, and maybe she didn't communicate to us that she needed it ASAP. So now it's been 6 days and she's like, my paint hasn't even shipped. I gotta talk to my customer. So we don't know what she had going on. So we just, just take a deep breath and fix the problem.
Yeah.
So let me talk about that real quick. When I did retail, and we've done the same thing with Caitlin, I had complete authority as a salesperson at Discount Tire to take care of whatever problem was going on with whatever means I had at my disposal. And we have done the same thing with Caitlin. She doesn't even bother us about stuff because she knows we're just going to say, take care of it. Now, that doesn't mean we do not run our business with the adage of the customer is always right. But we do run it with the customer always needs to be taken care of. And a lot of times when you talk through something, you can find a fair resolution that will keep your customer happy, but also be fair for you, so you're not just like out dumping money every time someone calls you on the phone and says, hey, I got a small scratch over here on my piece of furniture I bought from you. How do I fix it? Take care of it, make sure it's fair for everybody, and talk through it. And it's important to keep your cool. Like, don't get heated and be texting back and forth and saying things you don't mean, like what Jamie was saying.
If it's your monthly, take a minute. I know we have a lot of women on here. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I got daughters.
Or if I'm
I can talk about it.
In my case, if I'm pregnant, I use a certain form of birth control. I don't get monthly, so I'm pretty much even. But I do have cycles every now and then. I'll be like, Zeb, I just need a minute. Like, I can't handle this right now. It's okay. It's better to pause and not quickly respond than to say and do something that you don't want to mean, and to take it personally. Because if you're going to succeed in this business, you're going to have impeccable word, and you're not going to be able to take things personally. And there's nothing wrong with every now and then taking a minute and allowing yourself to process it. I see so many creators getting on the whiny bandwagon. And I'm going to talk about that for a minute. Now, every now and then something needs to be addressed. But if one more creator gets on there and starts whining about somebody copying them, after a while it gets to be too much. So sometimes you have to say, okay, maybe I think these certain things, but if I talk about them, what good will it do? If it's going to do good, then it's okay. But if it's going to distract you or keep you from doing something else that could better you, then I would just move on. I would just move on instead of whining about it on a public forum. It's funny because every now and then I will be like real and be a little bit negative, and people are so used to me not that they're like, are you okay? Is everything all right? I'll get like text and DMs from people that really know me or they're good friends because they're just not used to it, because that's not how I am. And I'm pretty much happy. I would say most of the time, Zeb and I are pretty like happy, upbeat people, and our life isn't perfect, but that's just because there is freedom in knowing that other people's opinions of you do not matter. That is the way I was raised, and if you can truly implement that in your life, you're going to be so much happier and be able to do that. So that's something I've always felt, even before I read this book. My mama raised me that way. Third, we only got 10 more minutes, so we'll try to get through here. Don't make assumptions.
Assumptions. Jamie and I have been really working on this.
Yes. It is better to say and ask somebody a question than to assume something. And sometimes we don't want to ask questions because we're worried that it might be offensive. Now, there's certain things that are none of your business, so that's another story.
And we won't answer that.
Yeah, that's okay. But if you assume that somebody's in a certain situation and you really just have to know, it's better to ask the question and have them tell you, I'm not going to tell you, than it is to sit there and just assume something about somebody. You know, assume that somebody does things a certain way because they're lazy or they don't want to. Because we never know what's in the background. Are you 100% transparent? Does everybody know everything about you in your life? No. It's the same thing with other people. And depending on their personalities and the way they were raised, there's a lot of things they're going to keep guarded and away from you. And that's where gossiping comes into play. I feel like gossiping is usually people making assumptions about things that they have no idea about. And I say, but this also carries over into business. I don't assume that Zeb feels a certain way about something. If I don't know, I ask him. I don't assume that Molly at the shop is going to be okay with me doing a certain thing. I will text her and say, Molly, are you okay with blah, 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 blah? Just to make sure, like, I'm pretty sure you're going to be okay, but I want to know. In this home buying process, because I've been in the industry, I have said, look, I might sound stupid, but I'm going to ask you every question to make sure that I'm doing my part to help move this along, because we are a special case scenario here with all the layers of risk that we have. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing my best part in that manner. So don't assume things.
Well, and it's easy to assume little things too. Like, I'm just assume that Jamie's going to do something because she usually does, and then I get upset because she didn't do that thing that I assumed she was going to do when we never even had any communication about it.
Cindy, Vintage Sin, I'm so bad at assuming things. My hubby calls me the assumptionator. It happens. Tammy, this is very sweet. She says, my transfer showed up smashed, and I let Jamie and Zeb know so they wouldn't have it happening to others, and they so sweetly sent me another transfer. You guys are great to your customers. So here, that leads us to the last and fourth agreement. Always do your best. Your best may not be somebody else's best. If you're just starting in the industry, you're not in the same path as Zeb and I, who have been doing it full-time together for 4 years, and I have been painting furniture to sell for about 7 or 8 years. We're at a different point in our path, but my best always changes, and there's times that you're exhausted. Your best will not be the same as a month ago, but always do your best at whatever you do. If you do something halfway, you're going to get halfway results.
Yeah. Well, it's even like in woodworking, simple something task I've done 100 times. If I'm working out in the garage and I get to the point where I'm like, wow, I almost just chopped my hand off, it's time to go to bed. Like, don't just keep going and slapping something together because you think you have to meet a deadline, and it becomes a point where it's like something you hate.
Well, and I think sometimes people confused with the name of this book, sorry, is The 4 Agreements. I got this on Amazon. It was under $10, I think. So it's an easy read, just a few hundred pages. Best does not mean perfection. So if you are a perfectionist and you're requiring something to be perfect, then you're detracting from doing your best at something else, right? So your best is relative to what you have going on. And I will never stop saying done is better than perfect, because people that are striving for perfection have a hard time sometimes completing tasks, and then you never reap the benefit of your efforts. So you kind of have to find that happy balance in there.
Well, especially if you're just starting out, you've got to practice 1,000 times before you can even come close to what you think might be perfection. And everybody's lens is a little different. What I think is perfect, you might think is a piece of garbage. So you just have to do your best, like Jamie's talking about, and then put it out there, and someone else will think it's great too.
Yeah, when you're doing custom work, it's really important to control the expectations of your customer and let them know you will do your best. I always would tell people I will make it nice enough that it would be as good, if not better, than something I would put in my own home. And I would control their expectations. Like if I was hand brushing something, I'd be like, there will be brush strokes in this. This is paint, and it could chip off over time because that is the nature of something painted, whether it comes from the factory or from me. So that way when they get it, they know that I've done my best and what to expect. So it's really important to do your best, but also control expectations and not promise things that you cannot actually deliver. We would tell people when we would like spray projects, like, this is our garage. Do you see the condition of our garage? Like, it's not a dust-free climate. So if you want a factory smooth finish, you're gonna have to go to a cabinet shop or a car shop and have it sprayed there, because this is the best that we can do with where we're at.
Yeah. The new garage is gonna have dust collectors.
That we're working on. Zeb's a rosy glasses, and I'm more of a realist, so we kind of differ in that, where that is concerned. But I think that we bounce off well off each other.
I have extreme rosy glasses. What she means by that is I am perpetually the optimist. It will be okay. If this house buying process falls through, I'm okay to live in the woods. That's how rosy my perspective on life is right now sometimes.
When did the anti-brush stroke movement start? I've never noticed on people's work, and I expect it on hand-painted items. I don't know. And I tell people all the time, they're like, how can I eliminate brush strokes? Okay, there's a few things you can do, and I usually list those off. But I'm like, if you really don't want brush strokes and you want it to be time effective, then you need to get a sprayer. Because if I'm brushing something by hand, do you ever see
you guys watching me brush this?
Yeah. If you ever see something that's been painted, there's usually a sticker that says hand painted, because that makes it more valuable than machine done. And if you go back into old world finishes, you're gonna see brush strokes and texture. So I think it's important to control that expectation. And I let people know all the time, like, I love texture, and if I'm gonna hand paint something, you're gonna know it. And one of the things that we saw in here, hold on, I'm gonna ask, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them now, because we're tying this up.
Wrapping up.
Yeah, somebody asked a question, I can't find it, but how do you get burn marks out of the top of furniture? I have no idea, so.
That is hard, because essentially you have to go through all the layers that it was burned. So lots of sanding really is your only option. There's not a good way to get rid of it.
There's some things you can iron over or whatever.
Yeah, you can try to draw that out, but at the end of the day, you're basically trying to get burned carbonized wood out of the regular good wood that still has wood grain, and it's a hard thing. Sanding is your best solution. And
I'm sorry guys, if you see me here messing with my lips, I'm still getting used to this brace situation I got going on here. These things are a lot more difficult than I thought. Zeb did not prepare me. He had his Invisalign weeks before me.
Sorry.
I hope that this video, if you are watching this and you are not a creative business owner, but you do have people that you interact with in your daily life, I hope this video is beneficial to you, not just on a personal level, but on a business level, because coping skills and life skills, I feel like, are universal across the board.
All right, something fun real quick before we go. shoot your questions in. We'll get to them in a sec. But, you know, should everything go through and we get this particular home,
Zeb's gonna show you plans. You guys are
kick the
stop
camera.
kicking it.
Sorry.
You guys are the first people to see the plans.
So we got our fun binder we made up, right? So this is the current house, like the main floor of it, and there's back stairs and things like that. That's basically the layout of it. We want to
Well, except for
add,
the stairs that we're adding to the upstairs.
yeah, except for these stairs here. We want to add a garage, like a big 2-car garage, like oversized that we can work in if we need to. Let's be honest, we'll probably only work in it. We park in the driveway now. So add the big garage here, and then above that garage and above, so, oop, my papers are caught up. So above the garage and above this thing here, we'll completely take the roof off of that. We're going to build an addition, which will have 3 bedrooms, nice wide hallway, bathroom. This is gonna be like my editing nook over here with my computer, Jamie's seasonal storage and crafting storage and things like that. And one of the things we've always wanted, our master bedroom is not big. It's like 12 by 13 feet. It is not a big master bedroom. It does have an ensuite bathroom that's over there in the corner, but we want a big master bedroom because in the evenings, that's where we hang out. We get a TV show going, we talk about the day, we answer YouTube comments and things, and that's where we're at. And so we've got like a big master bathroom over here, a big walk-in closet, and then that's going to be like our sanctuary. So we are getting that.
Laundry room. That's
Oh,
everybody except for Harrington lives up there, so we actually did an upstairs laundry room.
upstairs laundry room that comes right off of the bathroom over here. So it's going to have lots of storage, and we'll have to take a little hike around here. But the kids will be able to just take their clothes straight to the laundry room. And these are big rooms. If everything works out in my measurements, these are 10 feet wide, 15 feet deep, and we want to put big built-ins back here with windows, like a window bench, and then like a desk on the side and storage on the other side, and they'll all have fun closets. But let me show you.
The main level's getting some fun stuff too.
So this is the main level of the house, like the entryway, the pretty part of the house right now that has the porch in front of it, if you watched the video or seen the pictures online. So we're going to completely, if we can, take every single wall out of the main level and then build the character back into it. We're gonna do.
I haven't even seen this plan yet.
I drew it last night.
They're getting to see it before me.
We're going to open it up, do a big walk-in pantry. This is essentially 10 feet right here. Big walk-in pantry. There'll be a main bathroom there with a shower and everything. We want to have 3 full bathrooms just for guests and whatever. And then this is like our white IKEA couch and things over here. It has a place where we could do a fireplace over here, maybe a built-in bench under this window here. Jamie's current pew that we have, I've got set over here, and a big kitchen island because, you know, we've got to craft in the kitchen. And then a huge farm table. And then this will be open railing that goes down to the basement. This is the basement stairs. And if I have to put supports in the house, I'll put them here, and then we'll reinforce everything to this point. That way this whole area here is all still open with those big open rafters like I showed you the other night in our live video.
And the upstairs is, I mean, it looks big on paper, but the upstairs is maybe what, like all opened up is maybe 800 square feet.
Yeah, it's not huge.
It's not huge.
Well, I mean, that's a big open area.
Yeah,
so
we're
it
not.
big.
We're not building a McMansion. I think all total it's like 3,500 square feet, not including
With-
the garage. The
with
garage
the-
is like the biggest, best part. Like we're gonna put better lighting in there, a dust collection system. It will be heated. It will be cooled. I want a separate studio area to work with. So Zeb will have his painting area. There'll be an area for tools, and then I want a studio area where we can like do proper YouTube videos in there and kind of up production value a little bit. So.
Yeah.
It's a huge investment for us, and we plan on basically doing everything ourselves. In fact, Zeb was going to
The
hire
budget
a
only works if we do it all.
and we have a cushion. Like we probably have a 30% cushion over and above what we've estimated because we realize that we've never done this before. But that's where having a partner that you trust comes into play. Zeb trusts that when I tell him, in fact, I'm actually the one that came up with the entire. We had 2 other versions of this remodel, and then one more Sunday morning I was just sick, and because I didn't want to tear down that back of the house.
It's been standing for 102
Yeah.
years. It's solid.
There's no cracks. I mean, it's just amazingly well built. And I was just sick about tearing into the back of it because that was like the plan at that point. And I got the idea. I was like, well, look, we already have the foundation under the existing family room. We're going to have to replace that roof anyways. So if we go up, we save money on the foundation and we're not doubling roof expense because we have to re-roof it anyways. And then we'll just go up above the garage, which is something we'd already kind of talked about. And that's where having like being flexible and being able to talk, like I came up with this because that's me. I'm always.
Jamie comes up with it. I put it on paper and I'm like, nope, that won't work. We got to rethink this.
Yeah. So that's where working together really comes into play. And I feel like when you have somebody that can help you, whether it's your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your aunt, your uncle, whoever it is, your best friend, you can accomplish so much more if you have a team than trying to be a one-person show. I have told Debbie Beard this many times, and she's actually been doing
Her
really good.
sister is helping her a
pulled
ton
her
right
sister
now.
on. I've said 2 people can do the work of 4 individuals if you divide and do the things that you're best at and don't waste time doing things that you're not. So anyways, we love you guys. We hope this video was helpful. If you have any additional questions about it, go ahead and comment below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So Elizabeth Morris says, random question, the home is not in a historic neighborhood. It's
It's
not
old.
on the historic register. While it is old, it's not on the historic register. It's already had many, many changes and additions done to it. A lot of the charm we're going to be putting back into it.
Yeah, all of the charm that it would have originally had with like the 9-inch baseboards on the bottom are missing. So we're going to
those are
go
new
back
areas.
in and make it look like it might have when it was built new.
And we will probably have more projects to do once it's complete. I told Deb I would like the main area to be Charm City. And then the bedrooms, the family room, those situations, we can come back and add more charm at a later date when we have more funds because we don't want to break the bank. And I would eventually like to live there.
Yeah, we have a 6-month timeline that we think is realistic.
I would like to be in there in 3 or 4 months, so would Deb. So we are willing to work our bum off. Unfortunately, we're going to Paris in the middle of it all.
Yeah, bummer.
But we're probably going to need that. Like, I'm like, dang it, it's going to cut into our schedule. But then I was like, we're going to be at that, like the almost halfway point by the time we go to France. And I think we might need that rejuvenation.
Luckily,
so.
with budgeting, we weren't expecting to buy this house, so France is already paid for.
Except, well, I paid for me and our flights.
Oh, see
so we
ya.
gotta pay for you and the tour, but we got our flights taken care of and half of it done. So we're almost there. We're getting there, getting it paid off. All right, I think we've covered everything. Don't forget to dream big. Like, don't be afraid.
Dream it up and go get it.
All right, love you guys. Thanks for joining us. Tell your friends about channel membership.
You might see us this afternoon. I have adventure this